Let me tell you about a couple I know. Both of them work hard. She's in healthcare administration, puts in long hours, barely takes a lunch break. He's in software support, on call more than he'd like to admit. Together, they're pulling in somewhere around $125,000 a year. On paper, they're doing great. They're in the top quarter of American households by income. But ask them how things actually feel? Stressed, stretched, constantly calculating whether they can cover next month's bills if something goes sideways. Last year, their furnace broke in January, dead of winter, and instead of just calling someone to fix it, they had a whole tense conversation about whether they had enough in the account. That's not what you picture when you imagine a six-figure household. And the painful part is, they're not doing anything wrong. They're not blowing money at casinos, they're not buying designer clothes or going on extravagant vacations. They're just living. And somehow it still feels like they're barely keeping their heads above water. If that sounds familiar, stay with me, because I want to dig into why this happens, and it's not because you're bad with money. My name is Nolan, and this is something I've spent a lot of time thinking about. So let's get into it. Here's a question nobody really asks. Why did two-income households become the standard in the first place? Go back about 50 years. The majority of middle-class families ran on one income, and here's the part that gets me. It worked. Not just barely, it actually worked. A single earner could buy a house, raise a family, keep a car running, and still have something left to put away at the end of the month. There was breathing room. Now think about that same family today. If one partner stayed home, could you afford the life you're living? For most people, the honest answer is no, not even close. So what changed? The simple answer is everything got more expensive in a way that wages didn't keep up with. Housing in particular. Healthcare, childcare, the cost of getting kids into a good school, which is really just the cost of living in the right zip code. These things didn't creep up gradually, they exploded. And somewhere along the way, the second income stopped being a bonus and started being a survival requirement. That shift is what economists and researchers have started calling the two-income trap. And the reason it's a trap is because of what happened when two incomes became the norm. Think about housing for a second. When most families were buying homes on one income, the price of a house was essentially set by what one earner could afford. That was the ceiling. That was the competition. Then, two-income households became common. Suddenly, families had more purchasing power. And what happens when more people have more money chasing the same limited supply of homes in decent neighborhoods? Prices go up. Way up. So now you need two incomes just to afford the house that one income used to buy. The second paycheck didn't buy you more, it just reset the floor. You ran faster and ended up in the same place, except now both of you have to keep running forever just to stay there. The same logic played out in school districts, in childcare, in health insurance. The moment two incomes became standard, the cost of middle-class life adjusted to absorb them. Here's where I want to get really honest with you, because this part hits differently when you actually run the numbers. Say one partner earns $72,000 and the other earns $48,000. That's $120,000 combined. Sounds like a solid household income? But let's look at what that second income, the $48,000, actually brings home in real, usable dollars. First, taxes. Because of how progressive tax brackets work, that second income lands on top of the first one, getting taxed at higher marginal rates. By the time federal, state, and payroll taxes come out, you might be looking at $31,000 to $33,000 in take-home. Now, add childcare. If you have one kid in daycare, the national average is somewhere around $14,000 to $16,000 a year. Two kids, you do the math. Let's call it $15,000 for one child. That brings us down to maybe $17,000. Now factor in the second commute. A car payment, insurance, gas, maintenance, or parking, transit passes, wear and tear. Conservatively, around $7,000 to $9,000 annually. Let's say $8,000. We're at $9,000. Then there's what I think of as the exhaustion tax. When both partners are working full-time, running on empty, nobody has the bandwidth to cook every night, clean the house, handle errands during the week, so you order delivery more. You hire someone to clean. You grab convenience meals because it's 7 p.m. and everyone's depleted. Studies consistently show that dual-income households spend significantly more on these kinds of convenience services than single-income ones. Easily another $5,000 to $8,000 per year. Call it $6,000. So, that $48,000 income, after the tax hit, after childcare, after the commute, after the exhaustion spending, might net your household somewhere around $3,000 for the year. $3,000. Someone is away from home 40-plus hours a week, missing school pickups, eating dinner late, running on fumes, and the household is netting $3,000 for it. That's about $1.40 an hour in real terms. I'm not saying working is wrong. I'm saying the gross numbers are lying to you. When you see $120,000 on a tax return, you make decisions like a $120,000 household. You take on a mortgage sized for 2 incomes. You commit to expenses that require both paychecks, and then you're locked in. Here's the thing that really got me when I started thinking about this seriously. That older single-income model, the one we sort of dismiss as outdated, it actually had something built into it that we've quietly lost. A safety net. If something went wrong, a job loss, an illness, an unexpected life event, there was a backup option. The other partner could enter the workforce. It wasn't comfortable, but it was possible. The family had a reserve they hadn't deployed yet. 2-income households have already used that reserve. Both paychecks are already committed. There's no backup plan sitting in the wings. If one income disappears, you don't just tighten the budget, you potentially can't cover your fixed costs at all. The mortgage, the car payments, the daycare you can't cancel because you still need to work. Everything was built for 2 incomes, so everything crumbles if one goes away. This is the trap closing. I'm not here to tell you to quit your job or move into a smaller house. That's not realistic for most people. But there is a mindset shift that changes everything. Stop treating both incomes as permanent and guaranteed. Instead, ask yourself, what could we cover on one income? Build your fixed, non-negotiable monthly costs around the answer to that question. If you can structure your life so that one income covers the essentials, the second income becomes something entirely different. It becomes flexible. It becomes savings, investments, a real emergency fund, actual wealth building. Not just a second wheel that the whole vehicle depends on to move. It means making different choices about housing, about cars, about what neighborhood you're in. It might mean some short-term sacrifice that doesn't feel great at dinner parties, but the payoff is genuine financial resilience, the kind where one bad month doesn't spiral into a crisis. Real financial security isn't about income level, it's about margin. It's about having room to absorb a shock, make a change, or catch a breath without everything falling apart. 2 incomes are only powerful if both of them aren't already spoken for before they hit your account. If this landed for you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And I'll see you in the next one.